Okay, so there's been some really rich conversation today, and very much in positive language and very much about trying to find solutions. So just a warm-up question for the panel to begin with. Have we learned anything new?
No pressure. I definitely feel like I have consolidated some thoughts. So I feel like I need to process quite a bit of what's been said, because the thing that's been consolidated for me is on one hand, what a complex issue it is. And that, when I say complex issue, it is diversity, and how diversity is viewed, and how it's viewed from a mainstream white dominating position, although I think that is changing. However, on the other hand, what's clear today is that there's a part of it that is very, very simple and not complex at all, and that is about offering opportunities to those people who are ready to step beyond the emerging, and that's clearly something that has to happen soon.
Okay, and whilst you were on with us for a short period of time and tag team with your colleague, anything you want to pick up on?
No, only just apologies for not being here for longer, but I've only just arrived, really. But I did, echoing what you were saying, I did hear very quickly in the group that I was sitting with, Amanda's group, that the question of a kind of consignment of far too many people to a very nebulous sort of group of emerging, that came up very quickly when I was there, and the need to value people in different ways, and to allow people to give opportunity for people to progress in a much more meaningful way. But that was really the amount of conversation I heard, and
what I would say to answer that question is that unfortunately not. There's many things we've been having this conversation in London a lot, and I'm sure you've been having it over here a lot too. So a lot of things that we've been talking about within ADF have come up today. A lot of things that came up at the regional launch has come up today. I think that what's inspiring about what's being spoken about today is the fact that everyone has been ready and is ready, and it's really, for me, it's really important to have actors as well being a part of the conversation, and it's also really inspiring to hear. Maybe inspiring is probably not the right word, but it kind of fills me up to actually hear people talking more and more about boards. I think that that's where the focus should be. It should be about boards. It should be about associate positions. It should be about AD roles. It should be about those decision-making levels that exist within our institution. I think that there's been quite a lot of attention in terms of actors, and I think that actors are right. You do have to be faceted in a way in order for us to all be able to be instigators of change.
And going back to Daniel, so Daniel, thoughts, responses, anything to share in terms of where things are at with what Sheffield theatres are doing, or in general to pick up on?
I feel like we're doing quite a bit, and you can bet your life that it's not enough. I'm the first to say that we have a long way to go at Sheffield. I can tell you some of the things that we are doing, and they probably fit into three kinds of categories: programming, partnerships, and staff. And I'll start with the staff. There's been, over the last couple of years, a much stronger awakening of the staff's consciousness of diversity in its broadest sense, not necessarily only BAME. And it is surprising, constantly surprising, to learn how deep our unconscious personal biases are. And that's sometimes embarrassing and sometimes shameful, and joyful when they're uncovered and when we're made conscious of them. and that goes all the way through the organisation, from an HR perspective to how we market and who we market to. And I hate that word market, but how we communicate and who we communicate to. Those unconscious biases lurk throughout, and we have to just keep making them conscious. In terms of programming, again talking about the broader range of diversity, we've been working with partners to look at the broader issue. One of those has been Advance, Tonic Theatre's Advance. So I made a pledge last year that we would equal the number of male and female actors that were on our stages. And it was a challenge because it meant I uncovered my own personal bias and the bias of the canon, the English canon of the last 40 years, which is male heavy. So it meant that my reading list grew, and that was exciting and educational. And last year we smashed it. This year it's a bit more challenging, but we're going to do it. But that's just where gender's concerned. In line with the sorry? Yeah, I'll get there. Yeah. So in line with the creative case, we recognise that diversity has to sit at the heart of any programming decision. So we have made a conscious effort to communicate to directors and casting directors that come and work at Sheffield that unless the play doesn't work with colourblind casting, then you can't work at Sheffield. i.e., if the play demands specific racial characteristics, then fine. So, for example, I'm about to direct Showboat at Christmas at Sheffield, and that musical demands specific racial casting. If that isn't true of a play, then we do not want to have all white affairs at Sheffield on our stages anymore. It's interesting, we mounted a production of Jane Austen's Pride and Prejudice, an adaptation by Simon Reed, and Tamara Harvey, our director, decided that she would come along with our policy, and she went to town. So it was interesting having our audiences respond to a Mrs. Austen, who's Mrs. Bennet, who was played by Michelle Austen, who you probably are aware is an actor of Afro-Caribbean heritage, whose children were of many different races. And I think there were a small minority of our audience that balked at the idea, but actually most people didn't give a shit. And actually most people enjoyed the richness, the perhaps internationalism that suddenly Jane Austen offered, as well as being something big. She also, Jane Austen maintained her peculiarly Englishness, mixed in with, for example, Michelle Austen's Mrs. Bennet had a hint of that Caribbean mother that I thought actually was very Welsh, because she was someone who fussed over her daughter's marriages, and that felt very, very Welsh to me. But that's my experience. Oh, sorry. Yeah, I'm going on. Basically, we're working with partnerships. We're working with Eclipse, who is resident with us. They are we're co-producing a major classic, which is going to be announced tomorrow, which Dawn Walton is going to direct. Yeah, I mean, I could go on, but.
Oh, it's hard to sum it all up, I think. I directed Rich III at the Playhouse, and someone asked me last night in a post-show discussion about the casting of a woman in the role of a man. I've done a lot of sort of gender-blind casting, or just wanted to put more women in a big play, which ultimately has. I just didn't want to direct a production of Richard III that had a lot of men in it, that was just all about men, and there's so many reasons for that we are perpetuating a cycle of employment through these plays that it enables particularly supporting actors to male supporting actors to retain employment and flex their acting muscles over a longer career when women often don't have access to these kinds of plays. It also feels really important that the work we do, and this is in our statement, our mission statement, is that the work on stages, our audiences, this is our ambition, and our staff should reflect accurately the city that we and the region that we live in. We are, as Daniel said, we also are aware of that, but we are beginning to make those changes, and those changes are obviously ones that need to start at an executive level, but also in the roots of the building. With Richard III, it was bizarre because the conversation was about an actress playing a very specifically male role, which doesn't bother me at all. No one mentioned the fact that she's also a black actress. So there seemed to be a whole series of things that people, as you say, don't care about. People mostly are people engage in all sorts of different ways with the kind of messages that are coming out. But I think that the most important thing that we can do is recognise that what we put on stage should reflect the society we live in. That women, people from BME backgrounds, have power, do bad things, do good things, are complex, exist in all the hierarchies, and if we can put those pictures on stage, we do something to start to sort of offset the biases that we are all guilty of, and that audiences are only affirmed if we keep perpetuating them. We are at the Playhouse running a series of at the most sort of junior level of employment internships, which are particularly targeting minority groups. We're bringing people through in all of our departments from different backgrounds, which is a real change for us. We have a community program, community ambassadors program. We're reaching out to, we have partnerships with eight communities in the city, and working very particularly with in Chapeltown. We're about to launch an introduction to directing program, which I mean, for me, one of the biggest things, the most important things that we can do is that the storytellers, the people that make the stories, the people whose vision is driving and shaping narrative and creating creative teams around them, come from a much more diverse background. We are we're doing a scheme in the city starting next week, which, if you can put the word out, would be brilliant. And we're doing taster sessions for 18 plus people who may even not have occurred to them that theatre is something for them. We're doing those sessions in Chapeltown, Headingley this week, and then we're running a 5-day course introducing people to the idea of what theatre making and directing might be. So we would love you to let people know that that's happening. Hi, Nick.
Oh, sorry.
Oh, you were just stretching.
No, I was actually.
Yeah.
I haven't seen Richard III yet.
Yeah.
So I'm interested in how diverse it was, because I have to confess, and I don't know if I saw Pride and Prejudice and Vanya around the same time,
Yeah.
I think, and Vanya stood out to me massively. I don't know if it's because I'd just seen Pride and Prejudice, but there wasn't a single non-white face in Vanya. And I felt that was a massive missed opportunity for colourblind casting.
Yeah.
And I'm interested in Richard III.
Yeah, Richard III, I'm just thinking, there are, in the company of 12, there are 3 actors of non-white actors in the company. And there would have probably been more if a couple of offers had been accepted. Yeah, and Vanya, you're right. And it wasn't for want of, it wasn't, I mean, I know this is a boring refrain. It wasn't, there was no intention. It was just where we ended up. So we were meeting actors from all backgrounds. There was no decision to only work with white actors.
Okay, great. Can I just Sorry. Can I just make a point? So we'll open it up to questions shortly. I just want to bring some media in, and then we'll open it. So just hold those thoughts there. We won't lose you. We are conscious of time as well a little bit, and this conversation could go on much longer. And we have to be out of here because there's an event afterwards. But so media, just from a different perspective, maybe it would be good and useful for everyone to hear where the work you are doing is at now, where you see it going, or where you would hope it would go in the future. Just to share that with us.
Yeah. Okay, so where we are right now is that we hold monthly sessions in mainstream buildings because we recognise that unfortunately ADs are extremely busy people. So we're sort of bring ourselves to them. One thing that came up was visibility. We have over 200 BAME directors that are on our mailing list, all looking for work. And just to show how much they're looking for work, we're also doing a production called Black Lives, Black Words, which is taking place at the Bush Theatre. And it's possibly sold out. It only went on sale yesterday. It's a free event. And it was asking Black British writers to write a very short 15-minute piece and getting ADF directors to direct those pieces. And it's in response to Black Lives Matters, but from a UK perspective. And it just kind of shows you just everybody's come on board, more or less on a voluntary basis. And we have possibly about, I would say about nearly, about 40 people, 10 directors, 10 writers, 27 actors, do the maths. So we have over 40, people involved, and we have, performing arts as well in the foyer area. But I guess more importantly is that we have an advisory board now, which we didn't have before, and that's a collective people talking about internationalism. We have, I travelled back and forth from the States most of last year because I also do monologue books for Black actors. So I've got one publication that's out, that was been out from over on about a few years back, and I'm doing another publication at the moment that's just gone in for Bloomsbury. And I guess my whole thinking is that how do we sort of broker those relationships? So the advisory board is made out of British ADs, as well as Kwame Kwei-Mars on our board. Madeline, this is not international but here, and we've got another representative that's in Canada, which will be doing a series of sort of a conference in Canada, a 5-day conference that we will be including practitioners to go over and actually do sort of a day workshop, sort of a masterclasses with the ADs the directors that we have on our books that we feel are at that stage of readiness. So that came up before in another conversation. So I've been eavesdropping, you can see me going around, eavesdropping, writing notes. We'll also be doing networking events with boards, connecting people that are already on our programme with board members. So we're doing quite a lot. I mean, now we're at the stage of we'll be constantly doing our monthly programs of I don't know what to call them. We just call them meetings because we wanted to keep it quite informal. But essentially, the way they run in a nutshell. So I know we're out of time, but it's we thought it was really important that we have a sort of open conversation about a specific area of the AD role, and then we do a practical session that follows. And that's how our AD meetings run. And like I said, the Donmar have done one, Royal Court have done one, so we've got Young Vic have done a few. And we've been literally rolling through it, Royal Stratford. There's quite a few people that have been doing them. Tomorrow we're in Leicester Curve, so we're bringing some directors up from London to be a part of that. So the next phase of our project is about implementation. So we've got some really grand ideas. I'm not going to share them all. Watch this space. But yeah, so we just want to, whatever we're doing in London, we'll also do social hangout events because we feel it's really important that the directors that we have on our programme feel very much supported. And like I said, this has all sort of come out really organically. It all came from the D&D devoted into sponsored conversation where I brought up the question of how do we increase the diversity of artist directors in mainstream theatres. Yeah. I think that's it in a nutshell.